Welcome back, my friends. And now what we are going to do is take a look at another interesting panel that we have inside After Effects, and it's called the Composition panel. Now, right now you can see that this panel here, it says Composition, my first comp, all right? That's the name of our composition. And you can see that if I click in here, I can open the flowchart. Now, I'm gonna go like that, and you can see that I have this node. Now, this will help us with the structure of our composition, but right now I'm just gonna close it by clicking. And I want you to be aware that we can see more than one panel in here. For example, if I double click on my PSD file, in my Photoshop file, I'm gonna double click on it. You can see that now I have two different panels, and this one says Footage, Master Effects, PSD. And now if I click on my composition panel, you can see that I get a different type of result. So this is my composition. This is just the footage that I am using, the original file. So it's a preview of my image or the object that I have in this project panel. So if I double click on my grid, for example, you can see that I get this. And now can you see, right now I have this window that is not allowing me to see what is happening. And that's because I am using my caps key in order to lock the view. So if I want to make sure that I am able to see that, I have to unlock that pressing caps on my keyboard. And now you can see that that is helping me with that. Now, if you don't see your renders, if something happens like that, you get this red marking here, that means that you need to press this caps lock option in order to get access to that specific piece of footage. Now, I'm just gonna click again on my composition. You can see that this is the one that I have. And if I double click on my Photoshop, you can recognize that because this one doesn't have the 2020 and it doesn't have actually the other section or the other gray solid that we created in our previous class. So if I go to my composition, you can see that I have my Master Effects 2020 and I get this other object that I created in my previous class. So I'm gonna take this object, for example, and now I can get to, let's say, layer, and I can go to the solid settings, and I can actually go and manipulate the options for that specific object. In this case, it will be like changing the color. For example, I can go and click in here and try to find a color that matches with the actual image. So I can click on this little guy and I can click on the eyedropper and I can get the same color. I click on OK and then I click on OK and I get this value. So now I have this other piece that I can use, and probably I can manipulate it by just using my move tool, okay? And I can just drag like this, and I can put it on top of that if I want to, all right? So don't worry about it, and we will talk about that later. I just want you to get familiar with this option here. Now, another thing that we have in here important is how we're gonna be able to move. Remember, I told you about the shortcuts that you're gonna be using a lot? Well, let's say that you want to see your entire object. So I can go, and I have a mouse that has 3 different buttons, and I have a wheel mouse. So I can move the wheel and I can go farther away, or I can get closer to, and see every single pixel of my image. So I can go like that, I can go like this. And that is really nice because it allows me to, just get closer to my objects, and that's really nice. Now, another thing that I can do is press the space bar temporarily. And when I do that, I get access to my hand tool. And this is the shortcut that I wanted you to remember, not the H, because if you press H, you're gonna have that tool active. And let's say that, you have your H tool, you're moving your object like that, your canvas. And if you want to move something like, let's say this object, I will have to go and press V in order to get my selection tool, and then move that, and then H if I want to move again. And I have to do that every single time. So V, and then I'm going to be able to move again, and then H, and then I'm going to get my hand tool, and that's kind of easy to do. But if you are using just, for example, your V tool, right? So you are using this manipulation option, your move tool, and you want to make a quick move in your canvas, all you have to do is press spacebar, and temporarily you're going to be able to use it. So you release the spacebar, and you're going to get back to your to the original tool that you were using, or the to the tool that you were selecting. So that's a lot faster to move and be a little bit more efficient inside After Effects. So efficiency is the key when working in this field. So that's another thing. We can select this, move it again, put it back in here. And now let's see another option in here. So we know that we can move with the space bar. We know that we can get closer with this. And now another thing that I can do is, let's say that I am in here, right? And I want to get closer to the A in the After Effects. So if I start doing that with my mouse, I can get closer, but I am not going to the exact area that I want to do, that I want to visualize. So I will have to go closer and then press the spacebar, and then I will have to move like that and go to the A that I want to see. So that's not a nice thing. What you can do is, if you're moving, for example, and you're like, let's say in here, and you want to get to that specific point, what you can do is just press the key Alt, and then you move the wheel. And if you press Alt, you're gonna get closer and you're gonna go to the exact point that you want to use. Now let's say that I want to go to the S, so I can just go like that, and I'm gonna focus on that. So I press Alt, and you can get to that specific point. And that's a lot nicer. And then you can move a little bit if you want to. Alt, you go back with the wheel, and then let's say that you want to get, see the eye in here. So Alt, and then I go closer to the eye. And that's a really nice way to navigate. And that's a lot more efficient. So that's what I want you to get, efficient. I want you to become efficient in After Effects. And these little things are the ones that are going to make you, become familiar with the navigation and all the techniques that you can use in order to become a lot more faster and look more professional as well. So that's basically the navigation stuff right now. And now let's jump into some of the tools that we have underneath here. So first of all, you can see that I have the preview window, and you can have that as your always preview this, so you can have that active. Then we have our options for the primary viewer. We're gonna see this once we get more objects, but for example here you can see that we have options for really cool stuff, 360 side-by-side, 360 monoscopic, and a little bit more advanced kind of things. But you get, now you know that right now we are using this theatrical mode, or the theater mode, where you can see these things right now. So if I change that right now to, let's say, 360 monoscopic, you can see that there's nothing changing right now. But you can jump into the preferences, you can change how you want to see these things, you can do a lot of stuff. But for now, don't worry, okay? Don't worry about this. This is just, we'll talk about that in an advanced kind of situation. Now, after that, we have the Magnification Radio pop-up. And in this case, I am looking at a 50% ratio. So I can go and say, I want you to fit that into my window, and it will fit everything you have in your composition into your monitor. So you can see the actual size, which is 33.3%. You can go and fit to 100, which is, the one that we are using. We can go and say, you know what, I want to see it to 100%. I can go and change it to 100%. And then if you are looking at 100%, remember you have the hand that allows you to move and check where you are. And you can see that when you're 100%, you get really nice detail of your objects. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you're working with images that you want to make, if you want to make close-ups, you will need to have a bigger resolution than the actual composition that you're using. But we will talk about that later, don't worry. Right now, remember, we are talking about the panel. Now, after that, we have some options that allow us to see a grid. For example, if you want to get some guides for our composition, we can have rulers, we can specify where we want things, so you can actually bring guides in here, and you can decide, you know what, I want a line in here, I want another one in here for my text. You can take them and place them where you want them. I can take that again, and I can remove the grid, I can remove my guides, and that way I can get rid of the guides that I just created, and the ruler as well. So just different things that you can use inside After Effects that are going to help you with the position of things. And like I said, these things, a lot of people just want to go and start working with the actual effects and all these things, but remember, these things are helpful. And if you know these, let's say that you're working on a composition or in motion graphics, and let's say that you want to move one object from this region, and let's say that you're gonna have this, and I can bring something in here, or the online, for example, I can place it in here and say, you know what, this is gonna be my point of movement. So I can take my online, and then I know that I want to move that to this other point. So I am creating kind of an efficient way of knowing where I am going to move my stuff. Now, remember, we have a lot of different type of things and tricks that we can use for designing our compositions. But for now, like I said, just keep worrying about these settings, the functionality and the navigation. Now we have another option in here that allows us to see masks and shapes. Right now, we don't have any of those, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the guides, and I'm going to remove the ruler, and let's bring some kind of a mask. Okay, we are going to talk about masks later, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a mask for this master effects layer. So I'm going to take my Photoshop layer underneath here. I'm going to go here to my pen tool, and then I'm going to click, for example, on the eye, and I'm going to click and click and click and click and click like that. And you can see that now I am able to see only that little area of that specific object. So if you want to remove a portion of your image, you can do that by creating a mask. Now the thing here is that this thing is showing me the shape of the mask, the shape that I am using for that specific mask. If I take that out, you can see that I am removing or making sure that I am looking at that. And probably, like I said, you don't know what a mask is, but later on when we talk about masks, you know that you can come and manipulate that. So I am not going to talk about this one anymore. Let's go and see. We have our timer in here, so we can specify if we have an animation. I can specify where I want to go and look at that specific frame. I'm going to cancel that. Then I can take a snapshot of this, and you can see, I don't know if you hear the camera kind of shot that I used. Now let's say that I want to remove that mask. So I'm going to press M, and I'm going to take my mask. I'm going to go like that, and I am going to delete it. I'm just going to press delete in here, and I'm going to get rid of that. And now you can see that when I press the snapshot, I have a picture of the snapshot that I took a few seconds ago. So if I want to see the previous, okay, I like it that way, I like it like this. So you have a comparison kind of thing that you can use in order to move from one place to another. Now we have options for looking at our different channels, the red, the green, the blue, the alpha, and all these kind of things, or RGB, all of them. Now you can see the resolution, where we can see the full resolution of our image. We can go half of the resolution, we can go a third, and we can go at a quarter. Now this is helpful when we are working with heavy stuff, heavy images, and our render is kind of holding us back. So you can actually use these options in order to get more efficient. And After Effects is not going to have to deal with all the information. We're just going to say, okay, please work with a quarter of that, or you can even customize how big you want this. So I can go an 8, and I said okay, and now you can see I have less resolution, but that is my custom resolution. So I'm going to go to auto, and automatically After Effects is going to decide, okay, I can handle this, so I'm going to be like that. And later on, after that, I'm going to hide an object from here. Let me just hide this, and you can see that everything looks black. But if I click on this little guy, I can see that that means transparency. So this background is just something that we have as kind of a feedback for us to see things with a background color. But if you don't want it, you just go like that, and you can't remove that. Now this other one allows to specify a region of interest. I'm going to click again in here, and let's click on that. And now what I can do in here, I have a temporary region of interest, so I can go and create just a region of that, and you can see that now that's the only portion that I'm going to be rendering, and After Effects is not going to deal with anything else but just that specific portion. So that is a lot more efficient if you have a lot of effects going on and you just want to get a clear option of what is happening in this region. You just use that, and After Effects is just going to render that portion, and it's going to forget about all the rest of your composition. And that's a really cool thing. So I'm just going to remove that. Then we have cameras. We're going to talk about that one later on. We have views. We can have different type of views. You can do that like that. And then if you're using pixel aspect ratio correction, you can use it. In this case, we are using a perfect kind of ratio, where we are using just square pixels, 1700 by 1700. So we don't need to change our pixel toggle. It doesn't do anything. And basically that's what we have. We have some other ones like the timeline. We can jump to the timeline. We have this one where we can see our preview, our fast previews. We can see our actual notes in our composition. And that's another window that we have in here, important one, but we will talk about that later. We have the exposure, where if you move that, and you can, if you make change the exposure of your objects, you can just click in here and it's going to reset everything back to the way it was at the beginning. So for now, I hope you get an idea of what you can do with this panel. If you right click on it, you're going to get a lot of different tools that you can use, but we will talk about that later. Just keep in mind that you have a lot of different options. If you click outside in here, if you click inside here, so in this area you have this menu. If you click right click inside, you have a lot of different type of commands and tools. So just like in here in our project, you have this menu. So every single one of the panels is going to get different type of behavior. But for now, you have a lot of information about this panel, and I will see you in our next one. Thank you. Take care for now.